That's what really kind of started this whole thing, is bringing these principles to bear. And reviews, of course, are always associated with your online reputation, but there's so much more to it. And so we wrote a whole book and a whole course around all the different facets and aspects to creating a really powerful online reputation. Reviews are a big part of it, but there's a lot more. And that's what we wanted to expose and bring to the market.
Hey everyone, I'm Scott Brandley.
And I'm DJ Sprague.
Welcome to the Ecommerce Traffic and Conversion Podcast.
Today we're going to talk about our journey to behavioral science, how we got there, and why we ended up becoming immersed in this area of conversion rate optimization.
Yeah, so you kind of kicked it off, getting fascinated with behavioral design and behavioral science. We've been doing it for years and years and years, right? But we didn't really get into the psychology of it until a couple of years ago, where we really started to immerse ourselves in it.
Yeah, we were just kind of trying to figure out how we can help create more effective tools, widgets, processes, and help our clients create more conversion on their websites. And I stumbled on this book called Online Influence by Bas Wouters, and it was eye-opening. It was so amazing that this book covered 37 different proven behavioral design principles from Dr. Robert Cialdini, BJ Fogg, Daniel Kahneman, and others. And it was the first book of its kind that I've ever seen that really brought it all together into one book, all the behavioral design strategies and principles, and mapped it all out. So we got immersed in it, and then we signed up for the course, Online Influence Institute, became certified there, and then that led us to Dr. Cialdini.
Do you have a copy of that in your office?
Right there.
It's a pretty beefy book.
Yeah.
400 pages or some crazy number, but
just shy of 400.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good guess. Man, it was just such a cool book. I don't even know how you found it, but I remember you coming to my office and be like, dude, you got to read this book. This is amazing. And obviously we're both Cialdini fans. And in a previous episode, we talked about this book, right? Yep. Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Dr. Cialdini, which this is like the Bible. And then Online Influence is almost like a continuation of Influence. And so the way we look at it, and you'll probably hear us say this over and over again, but we really think about Influence from Dr. Cialdini as the concepts behind behavioral science, and then Online Influence as the online application of those principles. And then here at Shopper Approved, we are the execution. So we execute these principles in the real world to thousands of e-commerce websites. So it's this really cool, gradual, in the trenches type of step as you go.
Yeah.
But that Online Influence was a huge part of that equation.
Yeah, what's great about the Online Influence Institute, which is the online course that goes with the book, is that you really get into case studies and looking at the statistics around certain applications, tools, how they were used in different websites and pages and applications, and how it moved the needle 10%, 50%, 100% in terms of either clicks or form fills or conversions, whatever it is they were trying to measure and improve. And the neat thing about the process is it breaks it down into each individual step. So for example, you want to get people to open the email. Then you want them to read the email. Then you want to click on the link. Then you want to go to the landing page. Then you want them to fill out the form. And then you want them to submit. And it walks through the whole process. So you're looking for the weak link in each and every step, not just, I want more conversions, or I want more form fills, or I want more subscriptions. That's too broad, too general. You've got to break it down into each and every step in the process and look at how you can improve each step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And that's the neat thing about the philosophy of this book, is it looks at it at a very granular step-by-step process, which you can manage versus I just want more conversions. Well, where do you start with that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's what I like about the scientific approach to online influence in the course and the way that the book approaches how to increase conversions.
Man, there's so much that we can talk about in the online influence book, and we'll probably break down a lot of the principles in that book over the however many years we're going to be doing this podcast, right? But we'll probably have Bas Wouters on the podcast probably several times. I mean, he's a really good friend. And we became friends because of his book. And I mean, once DJ gets on something, man, it's like he goes all in. So we found that book, and then I read it, and I'm like, holy crap, this is exactly what we do, but we do it in the real world. And so then he reaches out to the author, to Bas, and he's like, can we talk? And then we got on a call and we just started talking to him, and we're both speaking science. I don't know what you want to call it.
Behavioral science.
We both started
geeking out
and just become really good friends. And then we took his course, and that was a really valuable course. Just takes things in the book to the next level. And then we became certified in his course.
So then Bas told us that he was actually taking over the Cialdini Institute and becoming the CEO of that and kicking that off in terms of an online institute. It used to be an in-person program, which he went through and got certified as a certified Cialdini coach years before. And so we started talking and wanted to be part of that. And one thing led to another. And we said, we really should bring the first reputation management course to the online world. And here we are. So we created a course for the Cialdini Institute, which is coming out soon. And as a process of doing that, we decided to write a book to be the companion guide to the course. Mm-hmm. So we created Reputation King as part of the course. And now we have a full-blown book and course all around reputation management, which is the foundation to influence. Because obviously, if you don't have a good reputation, then anything else you do downstream is not going to be as effective as if people knew that this is a trusted company, trusted product. And so that's what really kind of started this whole thing, is bringing these principles to bear. And reviews, of course, are always associated with your online reputation, but there's so much more to it. And so we wrote a whole book and a whole course around all the different facets and aspects to creating a really powerful online reputation. Reviews are a big part of it, but there's a lot more. And that's what we wanted to expose and bring to the market.
Yeah, I think, us going down that behavioral design road has really helped us with the book, and not only with that, but like with the strategy behind what we do at Shopper Approved, and the tools and products that we're creating now are heavily influenced by behavioral design and behavioral science, which I think really makes us unique in the space. When we got certified in the Online Influence Institute, then we started going down a rabbit hole there too, and started taking other courses and classes. So we really wanted to immerse ourselves into that world because we could see the incredible value that it can provide to businesses if they understand the principles and apply them into their business in different ways. So, I mean, you even went deeper than I did. Like, what are some of the courses that you took?
Yeah, I went and took the Behavioral Design Academy, 3 different courses there with Brian Kugelman. He's a PhD in behavioral science out of Canada, and took his courses. And then you and I both took MindWorks Academy.
Right.
And that was a lot of interviews with Rory Sutherland, which was really fantastic. And then I took another course, and honestly, I can't remember the name of the course or the platform, but it was a really good program. And of course, we both read a lot of books since then. and just gotten our hands on a lot of different sources and principles and books to really deep dive into this and understand how all of our products can work within what we ultimately created, which is the conversion path. So a lot of people call it the conversion funnel. We call it the conversion path because the way we see it is every step along that path is a step toward the end journey. And if there's a weak link in that chain or a weak step in that path, then you're going to lose people. And so we came up with this whole concept around the conversion path and putting design principles into every step within that path from search to checkout. And that's what we've really predicated everything on: the book, the course, the tools, the strategies, is moving people down that path one step at a time and making sure that we're identifying and removing or mitigating any friction points, and then adding any appropriate behavioral design principles to get people to take the next step. More trust, more affordance, more confidence, ease of decision-making, removing any barriers around, is this the right decision, the right product, the right company, and applying every behavioral design principle available in each step.
Yeah. Well, and you just mentioned affordance, which is probably a word that most people either haven't heard or don't know what it means. But that is something that we learned going through all of these courses and deep diving into behavioral science. Why don't you give the listeners an idea of what affordance means?
Great question. Affordance is a concept that basically says if it looks like you should click it, then it should be clickable. If it looks like you should be able to push the door open, then it should be a push versus a pull. And this concept of affordance came out of the UK, and I forget the name of the gentleman that came up with it, but it was all about creating products and tools that look like they're supposed to work in the way that they're designed to work. So we've heard about rage clicking, where people create something that looks clickable, but it's not. And so people just keep clicking, and they get frustrated because it looks so clickable. They expect something to happen or open or go somewhere, but it doesn't. So that would be an example of poor affordance. Good affordance would be a very clear, obvious, clickable object or link or button or image. And so affordance kind of goes back to Don't Make Me Think.
Right.
Charles Krug's book, which is a classic in user experience, UX, UI. And although he doesn't really call it affordance, that's a lot of what he's talking about in his book, Don't Make Me Think. And UX really is all about making something very, very simple, very obvious, very intuitive to use. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to experiment. You just know that that is clickable. That's a backlink or a forward link or something you can open, the next steps, etc. And affordance is a big part of creating a very usable website that people don't have to struggle through. Unfortunately, a lot of websites aren't designed that way, and you have to kind of wade through and figure out how to navigate, how to get to the next step or the product. And that's obviously poor affordance.
Yeah, I think Steve Jobs was really good at affordance. Just simplifying things, making it very obvious of what the different tools or things are supposed to do when you click on them or touch them,
Exactly.
But you can apply affordance into a lot of different areas on your website. So that's one of the principles that they talk about in online influence a lot. But it's just something that you don't normally think about when you're just going through your daily life. And so it's important. It's one of those important principles that you should learn as a business owner is to when you look at something, think about, is that the right use of that thing? Or are people going to look at it and think something else than what you're thinking when you built it? I think that's another reason why it's good to have third parties look at your site. And you just get so into it that you just can't see anything else. And you're like, oh, of course that's how it's supposed to work, because that's what I see every day. And then somebody else comes along and they're like, what? That's I have no idea that it did that, or that I was supposed to click there or whatever.
And BJ Fogg, who's another behavioral scientist, came up with a formula he calls B map. B equals map. Behavior equals motivation, ability, and prompt. And the hardest thing, of course, to create is motivation, but it's easy to create ability and a prompt. And this kind of comes into that whole affordance strategy where you want to make sure that people have the easy ability to move forward. So there's affordance, there's don't make me think. And back to what Scott was saying about Steve Jobs, he wants everything to be very intuitive and very easy and very simple and very obvious. And then, of course, the prompt. What is the prompt? The prompt has to be something that, again, is clear. Click here, register here, buy now, etc. Those prompts have to be very, very clear, very simple, so that people don't have to think about it. They don't have to analyze it. What happens when I click that? I'm not sure, so I'm not going to click it. So BJ Fogg, behavior equals motivation, ability, and prompt. And that's just a good rule of thumb to think about when you're designing your website and looking at every page. Do you have some kind of motivation to move forward? Is there an ability to move forward? And is there a clear prompt to do so?
Yeah, I like that formula. It takes a little bit to get it or your head around it, and there's more to it. But maybe we'll probably talk about that more too in the future.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just so many things that we've learned in the last few years that, I mean, I didn't have any idea about. But now I see the world in a different way. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, right? So we just want to get the information out of our heads and into other people's heads so they can help them in their business. So, we went and took all these courses, became certified in a lot of different behavioral design and behavioral science courses along the way. And then we became the world's first, this was kind of a cool thing, became the world's first diamond certified marketing agency for the Cialdini Institute. And part of that involved us getting our employees certified in the Cialdini Institute. And we really drink the Kool-Aid here just because we can see we are in the trenches every day with thousands of e-commerce websites. We can see the value of what Dr. Cialdini teaches, and Bas Wouters, and all these other behavioral experts that we've been talking about in this podcast. And we just want to get that information out there.
Yeah. We really see everything differently now. Whenever we look at a website, Scott and I will do what we call a website review for our clients. And we'll look at the homepage, the category pages, the product pages, and we'll really start to dissect it and look at it from every angle we possibly can from a behavioral science lens. And we'll look at friction points that a lot of people don't see. We'll look at things that are ambiguous, they're not clear in terms of value proposition. Why am I here? What do you do that's different? What do you offer? Are you really the expert in the space? Do you really have the selection I'm looking for, or the product or solution I'm looking for? And then, of course, the product page. Do you have clear product descriptions, bullet points? Google likes to call it product heuristics, a short description above the fold of the product, what it is, what it does, who it's for. Very important for part of that whole user experience, because what you don't want is people scrolling down on a product page trying to figure out, what is this thing? What is it made of? Will it fit my application? Will it solve my problem? And you want to have that critical information above the fold so they can see that this is the right product, the right solution, the right fit for their application or need. And that kind of goes to don't make me think, affordance, but it's really UX. It's really user experience. And those are a lot of things we look at. Is everything clear? The price, the shipping, the product heuristics. What about product reviews? What about product Q&A? What about website security? Should I be concerned about the security of this transaction? So we want all those things to be really clear in the place that people expect them to be. Because believe it or not, we've all become conditioned to seeing those core components, product reviews, Q&A, and website security in very specific places, because Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, and some of the big marketplaces have been doing it so long that we're now conditioned to look for those assets in a very specific order and place. And so that's part of what what we look at and help our clients really solve for to drive conversions. So we have one client, for example, that has seen a 75% conversion rate when people engage in those assets on their product page because it's addressing the questions they have about the product. And of course, it removes all that friction, all that doubt, all that fear, and they're allowed to then move forward with confidence and check out. And that's the kind of stuff that we get really excited about because we can actually bring results to our clients.
Yeah. So that's how we got into behavioral design, behavioral science. So hopefully that gives you a little more insight into why we're creating this podcast, and hopefully you learned some things about affordance and how to motivate people to take actions when you make the right buttons and do the right things on your site. So there's a lot more cool things that we have to share, and I think that's it for this podcast. What do you think, DJ?
Yeah, I think we covered it, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Take care.